Can Bitcoin be the next global reserve currency? Bitcoin price has fallen drastically from its all-time high, but just a few months back, the price of a single Bitcoin was at an unbelievable $69,000. Now, what set the Bitcoin price to the moon, and is Bitcoin still set to reach even higher all-time highs? What is up, guys? This is Crypto Zones, and we are up for a brand new video where I will be talking about the worthiness of Bitcoin to becoming the next global reserve currency. We all know now that Bitcoin has become a household name, as it has produced so many millionaires by holding onto as much of Bitcoin as they can. Around the globe, popularity of Bitcoin has grown significantly from where it was. But can Bitcoin be the next global reserve currency? Today, we're going to see what that looks like if it actually were to happen. Before we dig deeper into it, let me tell you a bit about how Bitcoin came into existence. Bitcoin is a pure digital currency that is decentralized. The first introduction was back in January of 2009. It was based on the ideas introduced in a white paper by Satoshi Nakamoto, the name used by the presumed pseudonymous individual or people behind it. What it had promised was a faster international transaction and less transactional fees. It isn't run by the typical institutional bank, but rather a decentralized authority. Now that that's out of the way, let's take a dive in to see how the Bitcoin could be the next global reserve currency. Large financial institutions hold reserve currencies as foreign currency reserves to combat and stabilize the exchange rates, and also to help assist global trades. From 1944's Bretton Woods Agreement, the US dollar has been the main reserve currency for the globe. At the time of agreement, the United States GDP was regarded as half of world's economic yield, which was backed by precious metals like gold. The gold reserves at that time seemed stable, but the world's reserve currency today seems quite different than it was. The value of the dollar has continued to drop since the United States government has failed to keep enough gold in the reserve to back the dollar. Back in the 1960s, the President Nixon pronounced dollar to be removed from the gold standard in 1971. This is exactly the reason why the purchasing power of the dollar has dropped drastically over the past few decades. The US dollar is starting to lose its importance in the world's market due to its struggles, and not to mention the new rising economic powerhouses trying to abolish the dollar as the global reserve currency. We also have other global reserve currencies certified by the IMF, such as the Chinese yuan, Japanese yen, and the British pound. The Chinese being one of the powerhouses, they are most likely to make a bid for their currency to become the new global reserve currency of choice. In 2021, Chinese GDP growth has surpassed the United States GDP by 2.05%. The Chinese GDP being 8.44% and the US being 6.39%. Based on statistics time, while the US dollar is enduring a huge loss in trust and China is setting itself up as the next global powerhouse, perhaps threatening the US dollar status as the global reserve currency. However, every legal currency faces the issue of confidence, as governments have track record of mismanaging their currencies by overprinting the money or getting into a currency war with other countries, and industries are starting to look for the better reserve options. A country like Russia is proposing a unified future globe currency. By the way, I hope you're finding this information valuable. If so, please hit that like button and consider subscribing so you never miss another video with full of great content. Also, here's a disclaimer that you should never listen to other people's financial advice, and you should always do your own due diligence. The evolution of the Bitcoin, on the other hand, is upsetting the status quo. There are actually several governments that are looking into turning Bitcoin into a legal money and possibly become the new reserve currency. You see, El Salvador declared Bitcoin to be the legal tender back in late 2021. They currently have a dual currency system, the dollar being one of the options that is paper money. The country has shown no signs of slowing down, rather encouraging their citizens to adopt Bitcoin. The country has declared Chivo as their official Bitcoin wallet, and they are giving away $30 to those citizens with this wallet. Because of this, maybe for the first time in El Salvador's history, they are luring in foreign investors that invests minimum of 3 Bitcoins in their economy, is guaranteed a residency in their country, and also granted with no taxation on a building that sits on a private land. In the near future, it'll probably become a hotspot for those who holds Bitcoin in El Salvador. Due to the fifth of the El Salvador's GDP using the traditional method, sending money such as railroad, it has resulted in El Salvadorans working so hard just to pay the excessively high cost just to send the money back home. Because the cost of Bitcoin money transfer is far less than the traditional method of sending money home, the cost of the remittance is estimated to drop drastically now that Bitcoin is their legal tender. This could also help with the GDP of El Salvador to rise, lowering the country's debt ratio. If this transition demonstrates to be a success in El Salvador, there may be a potential that other countries will soon follow. Previously, in the United States or Australia, the Bitcoin was not recognized as a legal monetary unit. And in many countries, this is no longer the case as Bitcoin has been formally adopted to the global currency map, with El Salvador leading the pack in what may become a new trend. Other countries in the South and Central America have shown interest in adoption of Bitcoin because it just may make sense, especially for countries that rely heavily on the US currency. Having a currency that isn't affected by the Federal Reserve Bank could be a game changer for their economy. Oil producers like Russia and Saudi Arabia may perhaps opt for neutral currency like Bitcoin rather than the dollar to ease its influence, being that it is mandatory to use it to sell their oil around the globe. Perhaps they'll opt for something like Bitcoin rather than billions of dollars pouring into Bitcoin from institutional investors, ventured capitalists, or high net worth individuals, and now, soon, Bitcoin might fight for reserve currency status with the US dollar. You see, the architecture of the Bitcoin makes it supreme to use it as a reserve currency, as it possesses many of the characteristics described for stable money. Bitcoin is easily identifiable, comparable, indestructible, easily separable, mobile, and valuable because the government will continue to print fiat money, and because of that, inflationary hyperinflation has happened in countries like Zimbabwe, Argentina, and Venezuela as a result of unregulated money printing. Because of this, even the United States is now facing a significant level of inflation, not seen in many decades. Bitcoin, on the other hand, only has a total quantity of 21 million coins designed to be scarce, which it could potentially continue to increase its value over time. The global currency has also been burdened by the currency exploiting on many occasions. The governments depreciate their own national currencies relative to foreign currencies on a regular basis in order to lower the cost of export goods and gain the upper hand over competitors. By using a neutral currency like Bitcoin as a world reserve currency, it would guarantee that there is less room for currency manipulation, resulting in a more productive and profitable financial market for countries and citizens. Many Bitcoiners think that there is a serious need for Bitcoin being the center of it due to internet being a global community and a rising rate of digitization. However, scalability of the Bitcoin blockchain may be questionable and concerning for some people. You see, the blockchain only processes 4 to 7 transactions per second due to its artificial limits in the code, which may not be sufficient to become the world's reserve currency for everyone. But with the Lightning Network as a Layer 2 protocol on the Bitcoin network is possibly already solving this dilemma, as adoption grows by allowing Bitcoin processing speeds to soar to millions or even into billions per second. If it is successful, it could potentially allow Bitcoin to process even more transactions, and if the experiment in El Salvador appears to be successful, it is even closer to being the world's reserve currency. Although Bitcoin may seem like it's increasing its influence globally, only the global leaders actually have advocated against its usage. One of them being the former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton. She had called on all nation-states to pay more attention to the spread of cryptocurrencies as they may affect the destabilization of the economies. This destabilization of the economy may start out with the smaller countries, but may even cause issues with the far larger powers of the world. Some people also believe that the Bitcoin would never actually replace the dollar, as the dollar is backed by one of the most powerful and transparent government bond markets. Well, all we can say is that now, the usage of Bitcoin and the popularity is growing day by day. Despite the crashes, and price of Bitcoin still manages to come out at the top. For now, it's only a matter of time before we find out if Bitcoin will actually become the world's reserve currency. And that is it for today. If you did find this useful and interesting, then do consider sharing it with a friend or a family member. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit that notification bell to keep you updated on our latest posts and videos. This is Crypto Zones, and we'll see you next time.